The city pulsed, a cold, relentless rhythm. Olivia drew her coat tighter, a lone figure against the neon glow of 1,000 windows. Rain slicked the pavements, reflecting back the city's artificial day. Each drop a tiny mirror to a world she no longer understood. Above, the sky was hidden, swallowed by concrete and steel, a sky without stars. She paused at a corner, the name of the street unfamiliar. Lost, but not entirely by choice. There was a strange comfort in anonymity, a city that didn't judge, only watched, with indifferent eyes. Ahead, a warm glow beckoned from a doorway partly obscured by swirling steam, a haven from the chill, a promise of something different. Olivia hesitated, then took a breath, stepping into the unknown. The warmth enveloped her instantly, a wave of sound, hushed and intimate, washed over her. Jazz music, smoky and smooth, flowed from unseen speakers. The air itself seemed thick with secrets, the scent of something old and precious. Olivia took a seat at the bar, the polished wood cool against her fingertips. This place was a world away from the city outside, a forgotten pocket of time, a place for whispers and shadows. Olivia let her gaze wander, taking in the scene. The lounge was sparsely populated, a few couples huddled in booths, their conversations little more than murmured secrets. At a table near the back, a lone man hunched over a chessboard, his face obscured by a fedora. The bartender, a man with eyes as old as the city itself, polished glasses with a slow, rhythmic motion. She ordered a drink, something strong and nameless. The amber liquid swirled in the glass, a miniature galaxy in her hand. Olivia took a sip, letting the warmth spread through her. Outside, the city roared on, oblivious and uncaring. But here, in this dimly lit space, she felt a strange sense of peace. Or perhaps it was simply numbness. She wasn't sure how long she'd been sitting there, lost in her thoughts. Time seemed to flow differently inside these walls, the past and the present blurred, memories surfacing like bubbles in champagne. A face flashed in her mind, a name whispered on the wind. She closed her eyes, pushing the thoughts away. Not tonight. Tonight she was simply a woman alone, seeking solace in the anonymity of the city. The stool next to her scraped back. Olivia turned, startled, her hand instinctively reaching for the necklace hidden beneath her blouse. A habit from another life. "Mind if I join you?" The voice was smooth, like velvet over gravel. Olivia looked up into the face of a stranger. He was handsome, she'd give him that. The kind of handsome that stopped you in your tracks, that made you forget your own name for a moment. Dark hair, carelessly styled, framed eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 stories. His smile was easy, disarming, but there was a glint in those eyes, something sharp and knowing, dangerous. Olivia found herself nodding, unable to speak. He settled onto the stool with an air of practiced grace, his movements fluid and controlled. He reminded her of a panther, sleek and powerful, coiled beneath a veneer of effortless charm. "Daniel," he said, extending a hand. "Pleased to meet you." She hesitated, then shook it. His grip was firm, confident. "Olivia," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. He ordered a drink the same as hers. "You look like you could use the company," he said, his gaze unwavering. "Or maybe you're just avoiding someone?" He spoke the truth, though she wasn't sure how he knew. Olivia met his gaze, a flicker of defiance sparking in her eyes. "Maybe I'm just enjoying the quiet," she countered, her voice stronger now. "In a place like this?" Daniel chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. "Don't fool yourself, darling. Quiet is just another word for secrets waiting to be told." Their conversation flowed easily, a dangerous dance of wit and veiled truths. They spoke of the city, of the music, of life's little ironies. But beneath the surface, a current of tension crackled between them, every word a test, every glance a challenge. He was unlike anyone she'd ever met. There was an aura of power about him, an air of mystery that both intrigued and frightened her. He seemed to see right through her, stripping away the carefully constructed walls she'd built around herself. And yet she found herself drawn to him, like a moth to a flame. He asked about her life, his questions probing, relentless, but he offered nothing in return. When she pressed, he deflected with a joke, a charming smile. Olivia knew she should walk away, but something kept her rooted to the spot. The music shifted, a minor key now, a hint of darkness creeping in. Olivia shivered, though whether from the cold or something else, she couldn't say. It was then that she noticed him. A man sat alone in a booth across the room. He hadn't been there before, she was sure of it. He was tall and gaunt, his face hidden in the shadows of a wide-brimmed hat, but it was his eyes that chilled her to the bone. They were cold and empty, like chips of ice, staring right through her. Olivia felt a tremor of fear run down her spine. She tried to look away to focus on Daniel's face, but the man's gaze held her captive. It was like a physical presence, suffocating, inescapable. She felt exposed, vulnerable. She realized then that Daniel had gone silent, his gaze fixed on the man across the room. The easy smile was gone, replaced by a grim line. The air around them seemed to thicken, the temperature dropping several degrees. Even the music seemed to fade into the background, as if the entire lounge held its breath. Suddenly Daniel moved. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping back against the floor with a jarring sound. "We're leaving," he said, his voice low and urgent. There was no room for argument. Olivia didn't hesitate. She followed him out of the lounge, her heart pounding in her chest. The cold night air hit her like a slap. The city noises suddenly amplified after the hushed intimacy of the bar. Daniel didn't speak as he steered her through the maze of darkened streets. He moved with a sense of purpose, his steps sure and swift. Olivia struggled to keep up, her senses on high alert. She glanced back over her shoulder, half expecting to see the man with the icy eyes on their trail. They walked in silence for what felt like hours, the city streets slowly emptying around them. Rain began to fall again, a cold, relentless drizzle. Olivia shivered, pulling her coat tighter around her. Finally, Daniel stopped, his back against a brick wall, concealed in the shadows of an alleyway. He turned to her, his face illuminated by a flickering neon sign. There was a wild look in his eyes, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "He's been watching you, Olivia," Daniel said, his voice barely a whisper. "They all have." Olivia stared at him, her mind racing. "Who?" she breathed, her voice trembling. "Who's been watching me?" Daniel hesitated, his gaze searching hers. "I can't tell you everything," he said finally. "Not yet. But you're in danger, Olivia. They know who you are. They know what you're capable of." "What are you talking about?" Olivia whispered, fear gripping her throat. "I don't understand." He reached out, his hand hovering inches from her face. "Trust me," he said, his voice a low murmur. "You have to trust me." His touch was electric, sending shivers down her spine. Olivia closed her eyes, fighting against the urge to pull away. She'd just met this man, knew nothing about him, and yet she found herself wanting to believe him, to surrender to the unknown. The rain beat down around them, a steady, insistent rhythm. The city held its breath, waiting for her answer. "What if I don't?" Olivia whispered, her voice barely audible above the drumming of the rain. Daniel's hand dropped away, his expression unreadable. Then he said softly, "You're on your own." He turned away, starting to walk away into the shadows. "Wait!" Olivia cried out, her voice raw with desperation. He stopped, turning back to face her. The neon sign cast strange shadows across his features, making him appear both familiar and alien. "Tell me what's going on," she pleaded, taking a step towards him. "Who are these people? What do they want from me?" Daniel hesitated, then sighed. "It's a long story," he said, glancing up at the sky as if searching for answers in the rain clouds. "A story about secrets," he continued, his voice low and urgent, "and lies, about power and the lengths people will go to get it. It's a story about you, Olivia." "About me?" Olivia echoed, her brow furrowed in confusion. "But I'm just me. I'm nobody special." He gave a humorless laugh. "That, Olivia, is where you're wrong. Come with me," he said, extending his hand once more. "Let me show you the truth." Olivia stared at his outstretched hand. The neon sign flickered above them, casting an eerie glow on his face. His eyes, dark and fathomless, held hers, a silent plea in their depths. Trust. The word echoed in her mind. Could she trust him? Could she afford not to? Her life had been a lie, a carefully constructed illusion. But the walls were crumbling now, revealing glimpses of something darker, more dangerous. She had a choice to make. Cling to the familiar, to the comfort of her ignorance, or step into the unknown, embrace the fear and uncertainty that awaited her. The city held its breath. The rain fell, and Olivia reached out, her hand trembling slightly, and took his.